Right, we are live.
Hello.
How are you doing, Jennifer?
Good. I'm doing great. How about you, Lewis?
I'm great. Thank you very much for joining me. We were threatening to do a LinkedIn Live for ages, and we made it
I
finally.
know it's awesome. We're fine. The day has arrived. It's very
It has
exciting.
arrived. It has arrived. So you're in New York.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually in New Jersey, which doesn't
Sorry.
sound great. No, it's okay. But the part of New Jersey I'm in is beautiful with open space, and it's not the Turnpike, but it's about an hour south of the city. So I'm right between Philly and New York,
Lovely.
near Princeton, New Jersey. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And wow, how's the lockdown been? It's probably a good place to start because a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about is how leaders have managed to evolve, develop, and cope with all the bunch of things that have been thrown at us. And this year's been relentless. It feels like
yeah,
absolutely.
It's been crazy. So it's been okay. I mean, the US, as with the rest of the world, the rates are going up so fast. And so we're just kind of waiting for everything, I hate to say it, but to be shut down more, So it's been pretty open, and it's tough because the summer was nice. We could all be outside. And now with the cold weather, we do have a heated patio and a fire pit. So we've been kind of pushing it, but winter's coming. So
winter is coming. Those outdoor heaters have flown off the shelves, I tell you.
I know. My husband actually got one before the rush, so we managed to get one, and it's amazing. I always sit right next to it, and it's really nice. But I know I heard it's impossible to get them right now.
Super hard. Here in London, we are currently locked down, but it's going to open up a little bit next week, and then we'll have this tier system and stuff. But it's just crazy. It's just gone on a lot longer than we thought. I thought May. I was like convinced May. Then I was like, maybe I got the year wrong. Maybe it's May 2021. But the only thing I'm certain of is, I mean, just everything's changed now, right? Like just everything.
So different.
It's crazy. And one of the things we wanted to chat about, and I know a lot of people speak to you about this. I hear it a lot as well. It's just how to engage with your team. How to keep the culture. Everyone started, I don't know about you, but it was like, right, we've got to get like a team call in every day and a week, and then it's quizzes. And, what have you seen?
Yeah, such a good question, because when I know we're talking about this idea of leading with love, and when my colleagues and I put this together, it was way back in March. I wonder if we even started in February, but it was at the very beginning, right? So this idea of doing the check-ins and kind of introducing more heart and more connection was new, and it still applies now. So I think, I am seeing a lot of burnout with Zoom and video, and we've talked about this sometimes. I think we did this once. We had a chat when we were both walking, or at least I was walking.
We were on the phone,
we were on the phone and walking. So it can be tough even as the months drag on to really engage people. And so, I wrote an article about best ways to connect. There's so many lists online. But the one idea that we really come back to is just how can we introduce this coach mentality, which is more like a way of being and also a to-do list, right? So how can I show up in a way that is honoring all the varied experiences that people are going through? And it sounds so simple, and honestly, it's what leaders and everyone should be doing anyway, right? So oftentimes this crisis makes us kind of do the work that is necessary anyway. So
so a coach mentality. So you should think of yourself as a coach, coaching your team and having that mindset. Is that the right?
Yeah. And oftentimes as a leader, especially senior leaders, we're very focused on results. Of course, right? You have to be. And this idea of relationship and introducing compassion and empathy. I've heard so many clients say, well, I don't have time for that, or that's, that is the job. And we know that task and relationship are both equally important in terms of leadership effectiveness. But now more than ever, I think of being a coach as kind of having those two parts, right? So you have the task stuff, and then you're also able to step in this place where you're almost caring for your people, caring for their emotional needs, caring for their situations, which is unnatural for some people because they're so used to, go, task.
But it's always been, like, say, talking about like kindness and your feelings and being empathetic. It's always, I think, in business, to correct me if I'm wrong, been seen as a bit weak.
Yeah.
Like business people should be strong,
Yeah.
don't show our emotions, working 20 hours a day, don't sleep, da 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 da.
Yeah.
Is that changing now? Do you think that it's
Yeah.
acceptable to be a decent, a kind person?
Yeah, I think it really is. I know it really is. And it's funny when you said that it's kind of weak. Everyone used to talk about the relationship things as like the soft skills, right? So they're the hard skills, meeting your profit and getting results. And then there are these soft skills, be a nice person. And even myself, when I remember when I was in business school, there was a course I took called Creativity in Business. And it was all about, talk to people about their dreams and make sure that they're fulfilled. And I was, it was kind of, that's a fluff class. It was fun. And I'm never going to use that. I recently reread my book. It was called the Hero Path of the Everyday Hero. And I was so surprised because that's literally coaching. And it's literally, it's the recognition that if you want to get the results, the productivity, the commitment, the trust, you have to focus on those other parts. I mean, relationship, like think about someone you really like and they ask you for a favor and you drop everything and you just do it because you like this person, this person, they're there for you, versus someone who only calls you when they need something, right?
Yeah.
How likely are you going to be to do it? And it's the same in the workplace, and the foundations of trust and compassion and a true interest in the person. That is the job, and that will create better results. I mean, it's been shown in terms of employee turnover getting lower and productivity going higher. I mean, the more they say, like, you work for the team, you work for the boss, even more than the company.
Definitely. In fact, most of the people that I work with will speak to who are unhappy in their roles or want to move. So often it's the people. I don't like my manager. I don't like the team. There's always this people element.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's interesting. There's also this, often talked about thing about leaders, servicing their team, not their team servicing them. Are you finding that mindset now is shifting to, I really need to make sure my team are in a good spot, they're not burning out, and they're producing well.
Yeah, and I think I often say to people, as a team member, your job is to make your boss look good, and as a boss, your job is to make your team look good, right? So it's this idea of, you have the reporting structure, which is I report to you, but in terms of I work for you, no, we're all a team and we all work together, and I do think that is shifting, and it's what's been needed.
Yeah. Have you found leaders struggle to adjust? Because, leaders it's a new scenario for everyone, right? Like you're used to going and seeing your team. I mean, some people were virtual, but most of the time it's, you come into the office. Have you found that leaders have really found it hard to adjust? Or now is it actually normal now? It's just...
Yeah, I think yes to both. I think a lot of people have had a hard time adjusting, and it definitely is much more normal now. And I think that's a lot of my work at the beginning was almost giving people a toolkit, right? To here are some ways you can connect to your team when you're not in the same room, because you think of those casual conversations in the office, and so you see the icebreakers and all that, which are great. The activities, and if we kind of incorporate this compassion and this connection even into every meeting. So one of the things that I suggest is doing a check-in every time you meet with people. I mean, so often you go to a meeting and you jump right into the agenda, and even just saying, I mean, there are some silly and fun ones, but you could be, one sentence. If you were a weather pattern today, Lewis, like what would your weather be? Like, what's your mood?
Nice sunny day.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, my first thought was a tornado. I don't know why I thought that, but
okay. Well, and then that's interesting, because if you are going through a tumultuous time, or if someone's a dark storm cloud is looming, even saying it aloud, and it's not like they have to be pressured to say, "Oh, I'm really in a bad place right now. I don't feel great. I'm sad," because that might be a little riskier. If they could say, "You know what? My life feels like there's something looming, and there's a storm coming." it's good to know that, right? It's good to know where people are. And so there are things you can do. Another thing I highly recommend for teams, literally any team, especially now virtual teams. So again, we have that you can do this anytime. And it's almost like a good excuse to try something new because the world is shifting. But this idea of doing we call it a team contract or a team agreement. Yeah. Okay. And it can be done anytime, but especially if there's someone new joining the team or it's a new team, and it's scheduling a conversation about what you want the culture of the team to be like. And especially as people are a little more disconnected, clearly physically disconnected, you talk about things like, what are the values we want to have on this team? What do we expect from each other? How do we want to handle conflict when it comes up? And so even having those conversations, I've worked with leadership teams where they say, you know what, we never talk about this stuff because we're running, at 100 miles an hour all the time. And it really increases trust and connection. So there are things like that you can do.
I love that. That's such a great thing to do. It's also, I spoke to someone yesterday, who's a global head of TA, and he said most of the people in our company now have joined over the pandemic. So most of the people in the company have never met. They've not gone into the office, drunk a nice cup of coffee, been sat down, felt the leather of the chair, whatever, just kind of these little things. And they were thinking hard about how do you build a culture with, amongst people that have never met, just virtually. And they're trying to think about things to do. And I think that contract idea is great.
Yeah. And even physical movement. I mean, think about it when you're in the office, you walk around, you might go visit someone in their office. And so encouraging people, if they seem a little burned out, everyone stand up and stretch. If you have if you're up for it, you could even do the dance party, which I love. We as coaches,
what's the dance party?
It's so connecting with something viscerally that feels invigorating or empowering can really shift the energy and the mood. So for me, it's always been music and dancing, and not everyone's into it. But for this Lead with Love webinar series, as you know, we had the acronym LOVE, and it related to, lots of virtual employees are literally overwhelmed by various emotions. And we had a theme song for each. So as people were joining, we actually had the music on and we were dancing. And, some people, probably were sitting there and didn't want to join in. And, others did. And, I was in a meeting the other day and we played a song before a coaching exercise, and the lyrics really related to the topic we were talking about. So we said, look, if you want to stand up and dance, you can. If you want to close your eyes, listen to the lyrics. And people really enjoyed it. Some people may have rolled their eyes, but that's okay. So it's a question of experimenting, trying new things.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, one of the things I do when I do team meetings in person, when I did team meetings in person, actually, I've done a couple with masks, but mostly it's virtual. I have certain props and toys, again, getting people out of their thinking mind. And one of the ones I love, I actually have it here. It's my elephant, my little elephant. So with teams, oftentimes there's that elephant in the room, right? The thing that people don't want to say or they want to talk about. So at the beginning of the meeting, we say, okay, here's this elephant. And if there's something you want to say where you're a little bit nervous or you feel like no one's saying it, go over and grab the elephant. And that's kind of permissioning you to do that. So I was in a team meeting with it. There's a lot of conflict. And at one point, one of the team members, she went over and grabbed it. And she was kind of like, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should. And it was almost her security. Like, it was hilarious. And everyone said, well, just say it. And she said, well, I think you all know what I'm going to say. And they said, well, no, we don't say it. So she eventually shared it, which was amazing. So I introduced this in virtual meetings too. I said, we got this elephant. You can have an elephant mug, a necklace, or just say elephant. And so if people want to say something and they're nervous, it's that thing that can kind of put them over the edge. So you can have fun with it,
Yeah. I love that. Maybe we'll do that. I'm going to implement that. I love that. It's good. It's important to do. If you're having, certainly if you're trying to build a good high performing team and people have just joined over video, virtual, whatever, it's nice to be able to have something like that. So you can start the conversations. We've just started TED Talks on our, So we do daily catch-ups, just like a half an hour team catch-up and stuff. And mostly it's unstructured. So people just, it's a little temple of positivity. So no COVID chat, of course.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
WhatsApp is, constantly
Yeah.
stuff about it. But now we just started. A little TED talk. So everyone's doing one TED talk about any topic that they want, and so we're halfway through, and it's really nice because you kind of find out a little bit about what interests people.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you done yours yet?
no, I'm about to. If you've got any good ideas,
I was going to say, is the topic secret, or have you not found your?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure now because everyone's up the game. They did like the presentations, the slides, shared their screen. I'm like, oh, I've got to do that as well. So I haven't decided yet. I'm next week.
Okay. Well, if you want to have a brainstorming session, hit me up. I love brainstorming.
I might do something completely random, but I need to be creative, which brings us nicely to our next point.
Yeah.
So a lot of, it's like a lot of people have been reacting, right? So I don't know about you, but it felt like in end of March, beginning of April, it was like, what was the right word? Hustle.
Yeah.
Pivot. And then suddenly it was like, oh, it hasn't finished yet. Keep hustling. It's just been absolutely relentless. Most people, most leaders haven't had time off, right? I mean, no one wants to take holiday at home.
Yeah.
And people have, I think, worked harder now. You roll out of bed, you're at home, you work longer, you maybe have a bit of dinner, you get back the laptop out and things like that. And it feels like only now are some people starting to move from that reactive to proactive or creative leadership.
Yeah.
What have you found that's worked well for leaders?
Well, one of the things, and you touched upon this, is just this idea of things coming at you, right? Everything's coming at you and you're reacting. And for a lot of people, it's as simple as, it's simple, it's not easy, as purposefully scheduling time to work on strategy and to work on innovation and to work on those things that A, are needed in the business, and B, are inspiring and fun, right? So, making that a priority. And just as the relationship piece is the job, strategy and innovation is the job too. And people forget about that because they're kind of on that hamster wheel. And so for me, it's a question of helping people, again, connect with that visceral sense of passion. Why did you join this company, and who are you at your best self? And, what is your vision for success? And then they can kind of be in that energetic place. And from there, they recognize the importance of scheduling. Because again, you can tell someone to do something like, oh, schedule time in your schedule. It's like, okay. And then they don't do it. So for me as a coach, what's really exciting is kind of getting underneath, what are the emotions and feelings that are driving these decisions, which is oftentimes I get this. I think we may have talked about this in a previous conversation, the comment, well, this isn't therapy. Can we talk about emotions? They think that it's, weird. Because again, in the workplace, sometimes, senior executives, they're not used to talking about their feelings. Right. And I don't know if you've ever done cognitive behavioral therapy or heard that term. But it's basically looking at the relationship between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And you can change any of those and get a different result. So let's say, I know I don't want to use the COVID example because, again, positivity, negativity. But let's just say stressed out by the virtual, environment and everything. So when you have a thought like, oh my gosh, this is so stressful, I can't stand it anymore, you're going to get the emotion of angst, right? And then the behavior might be to snap at your kids or to snap at your coworker. And so if you can purposefully change your thoughts and replace it with something, and I always like to use humor, like the elephant or something. And actually neuroscience has shown us that if we do introduce humor, it releases chemicals in our brain that can change the way we act and that change the neural pathways. So let's say you replace it with, you know what, day by day, this is awesome. Like, this is life. I'm living in the moment. Then that can connect you with a different emotion, which might make you, call up a friend for a drink that night, or have a good chat with a coworker. So you can change your thought. You can also change your feeling. So that's where meditation and relaxation come in. So if you're feeling stressed and it might make you act a certain way, like reactively, you can purposefully do some deep breathing, have a dance party, listen to your favorite song. So it's really cool. So there are a lot of tools out there where you can intentionally reset a behavior, a thought, or a feeling, and it can really change the way you show up.
Nice. Is it worth like diarising that stuff? Because I, for example, I met a guy. He runs a chain of Mexican restaurants in the UK. Yeah. Completely forgotten his name, so sorry if you're watching. But he has 4 alarms that he sets, and so he sets an alarm at like I think it's 6 a.m. To remind him he's going to be the best person in the gym that morning. Yeah. Then he sets a second alarm at like 8:30. He's going to be the best CEO. And then I think it's 3 alarms. His third alarm, it's like 7 p.m. before he goes into his house to remind him he's going to be the best husband and father. That's amazing. It was really cool. And I think, you know, it's funny when he told it to me, I was like thinking it's funny, but I think it really works.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that. And my goal is to help people get awareness of what's going on. So for example, there was some awareness on his part, right? That if he reminds himself that he's the best CEO in the world, he shows up differently. He probably feels differently. So the first step is figuring out what you need and what's getting in your way. And then this idea of forwarding the action, right? So finding tools, and he found a great one that will help you reconnect to that power is great. I actually have clients do an evidence journal of their greatness. So
what is that exactly?
Okay, so you can do it anywhere. Mine is in my phone. It's basically taking a step back. The goal is to connect you with knowing that you are your most amazing self, right? So we all have within us that part of us that is successful and grounded and kind of showing up as your inner leader. It can be hard to always access that, right? And so a lot of times we're dependent on external affirmation. You know, if your boss criticizes you or you get in a fight with someone, sometimes you think, oh, you know, I'm a loser, or oh, I'm not that good, or oh. And so we rarely, I don't want to say rarely, most people don't spend nearly as much time kind of acknowledging themselves for what they're good at. They replay what they messed up or how they want to do better. And it's always like about the next thing. And so the evidence journal, the purpose is to, again, reconnect you with your best self. So what I have people do is record anytime that they get any positive affirmation or they've done a good job. So like, let's say someone tells you, you know what, you are so creative and strategic and you really help this project. You would write in your evidence journal, I am creative and strategic, and that's it. So you're not tying it to that event, but you're kind of owning, you know what? I'm creative and strategic. Yeah. And then I have people read it. And then some clients, I'll say, you know what? Once a day, you're going to walk in front of the mirror and you're going to acknowledge yourself for something. It can just be one thing, like, you're really creative. And then you walk away. And it sounds, again, it can sound silly, but it's so, it can really change your go-to reaction. So if you walk around thinking, oh, I have so much to do, you might go around thinking, oh yeah, you know, I'm creative. That's right. That's me. So anyway, it's a
I love that. You are so, your mindset and the way you think and your internal dialogue, it's so critical. It's like, you know, at the gym, they say that most people, they only put in about 30-40% effort. Your mind gives up before your body a lot of the time, you know, when the going gets tough. But I think that's great. I've heard it also called a success log. Maybe that's slightly different. But I think it's really, really useful. I love that stuff. I need to do more of that.
Yeah. And what you're doing, the ultimate goal, it's kind of weird because on the one hand, I'm saying detach from external affirmation. And on the other hand, I'm saying write down everything anyone nice said to you. The goal here is to realize that, like, you are these things. I mean, a lot of people I work with, you know, but at this point in your life, you know, if you have a bad interaction or one bad outcome, that doesn't change who you are. And so you're using kind of, I think of it as feedback from the world, right? About your skills and your gifts. And so, and it's uncomfortable for people. I mean, I can't tell you how many, especially executives, I'll have them look at me now on the screen. before in person, and say something. And I say it from like I am an incredible leader. And a lot of times, even if someone's confident, and you'd look at them and think, yeah, they know that they're great, it's uncomfortable for people because we're not used to doing that, because people have this fear that it's going to turn them into some arrogant, nasty person. But it's not. It's just owning what you're good at and what your gifts are, and that we can all do that.
Yeah, and when you know how good you are, and obviously you don't want to be arrogant, but no one can bring you down, right? Whatever people say, whatever happens, you're confident in yourself. But we all remember those negative comments more than the positive ones, don't we?
Yeah. And then every time we revisit those stories, getting back to your neural pathways, that pathway to the negativity and to the feeling bad about yourself is so well traveled. It's easy to get there. So what we're trying to do is change your go-to reaction to go somewhere else. And that doesn't mean that you think you're perfect. And it doesn't mean that you don't want to improve on certain things. It just means that you know that you're good and you're okay.
Yeah. It's so easily said and much harder to do, right? It's like, almost, I mean, to like think about social media, you post something, it's so hard to post and run. You're like, how many likes have I had? You're looking for this, like, how many people are watching us? You're looking for this positive affirmation from people that, you're doing a good job, or that's a really cool post. And so it's funny, isn't it? We like craving this.
Yeah. And so the more that, and this is a lot of my work with clients, is the more you can come from your passion and really know that putting yourself out there and putting what you want to put out there, that is success, right? So oftentimes I'll have people redefine success. So success isn't the next promotion, the next this, the next number of likes. It's, okay, I'm honoring my life purpose. If I put something out that I'm proud of, and honestly, you can't control the outcome anyway, so you might think you can, but you're putting it out there and you're like, check, I honored it, like I nailed it. And then it's detaching from that result, which of course it's fun to get all that, and you don't have control over that anyway.
No, it's true. It's true. Love that. Right, I'm doing that. So I want to talk to you about this. I know you do a lot of work with teams, and there's constantly dramas, right? Managing teams and stuff, and so a lot of people have struggled, I think, to deal with these dramas virtually, and turn them into success. What are the kind of things, if someone's going through something like this at the moment, are there some simple strategies that they can put in place to turn it around?
Yeah, I mean, the word drama is such a great word, and drama. You're so dramatic, but the truth is that oftentimes we do get stuck in the drama triangle, and so the drama triangle is the classic triangle. If you think about any story, superhero movies, Disney movie, there's the victim, there's the villain, and there's the hero. And so I do a lot of work with the drama triangle when I do in-person workshops, and I always start out with this little skit. I thought everyone learned this as a child, but I soon learned that was actually not the case. I think I've run into one or two people, but it's fun to over exaggerate things because, again, subconsciously people have these black and white beliefs, and oftentimes people get stuck in the role of victim, villain, or hero. So there's this first skit. They say it's the first play ever, but imagine my finger is like a bow tie, right? So I have either a mustache, that's the villain, and the victim is like the damsel in distress with the bow tie, and then the hero has like the necktie, right? So the villain is like, you must pay the rent, but I can't pay the rent. But you must pay the rent, but I can't pay the rent. I'll pay the rent. My hero, curses foiled again. So it's like the classic, like there's the bad guy, then there's the poor victim, and then there's the one who comes charging in and fixing it. And so the idea here is anytime you are stuck in one of those roles, or anytime you see someone else in one of those roles, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. So classic example. So oftentimes very senior people, so a lot of CEOs I work with and senior executives, they get stuck in the hero role. And, I was working with someone once who, he discovered that it was from his childhood, had very strong values about helping people. But anytime anyone would come to him with a problem, he would just fix it, right?
Right.
So someone would say, oh, we're struggling with this. And then in his feedback, people said, you know what, if you left the company, we would fall apart because you do everything. So, wasn't really delegating well. And I don't want to say micromanaging because it came from a good place. So his intentions were good, but he was really stuck in the fix it mode. And a lot of high achieving people get stuck there. So what I like to do is play around with a more creative triangle. And so you take on a different role. So the hero or the fix it guy or gal becomes the coach, of course, right? The coach or the mentor. So instead of seeing things, even arguments or challenges or struggles, as something you need to come in and fix, you become the one who empowers people. You learn tools for helping them come up with their own solutions, and so the victim, so the one who's like, oh, my boss is a jerk, or, it's manufacturing's fault, they just can't get this right. That's unhealthy as well. The victim becomes the creator. And I don't mean, the creator, the God, but it's more like, oh, these circumstances are happening to me. Like, what can I create from this? Yeah. So it's more detaching yourself from the drama and saying, what can I create? And then the villain becomes the challenger. So instead of being the bad guy, like, oh, they're so mean, it's more like, they're really challenging you, right? There's obviously something that's wanting to happen in your system on your team. And instead of this person being, vilified, it's like, oh, and maybe they're challenging you to become more patient, or they're challenging you to detach from taking everything so personally. So it can be really fun. So what I have teams do is think of, someone that really bugs them, right? Or a situation that really isn't working. Yeah. And then I have them put these people in those three roles: victim, villain, and hero. And then I'll have them act out the skit, really exaggerate. That's why I do the little play at the beginning, because I'm like, I want the villain to be like really mean and horrible. And then I will have them change the roles to that kind of more creative triangle and replay it. And so sometimes if you let people play and use creativity, they can more easily change their mindset. And so anyway, that was a long answer, but hopefully it was clear.
Love that. So it's because a lot of people struggle with seeing things from other people's perspectives.
Yes.
You get so caught up in, my boss is a jerk, he's done this, or she's done this, whatever. It's so powerful to be like, okay, well, imagine that you're the boss.
Yeah.
And look at it from that perspective, and it's effective.
Yeah, we actually have a compassion meditation that we do it's only about 5 minutes, but you actually, I've done this with one person. I've done it with, roomfuls. I don't know what the proper one is. And rooms full of people.
Computers full of.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's anyone and everyone. But you actually take, first you give compassion to yourself, compassion to someone you love, and then you picture someone who really kind of you don't want to give compassion to, you're struggling with, and it can be really hard. And the next part of the visualization is you literally step into their shoes. So you imagine being in that person's body and seeing the world through their eyes. What are they stressed about? What are their concerns? What are they good at? And you really you feel for them, and you can see the world through their eyes. Then you come back and try to give them compassion, and it's really transformational for some people.
Yeah. I love that. Sold. To finish off, and we've spoken about this quite a bit, is for leaders adopting a coaching strategy.
Yeah.
So how can one do that?
Okay. So yes, obviously there's a lot to say on that. One of the tools that can be really fun to try is, we call it the 5 whats of turbo coaching. So, if you don't have time to become certified as a coach or make it a career, which most people who are in organizations do not, then try this out. So it's the what. So the first one, it can be tempting, again, if someone comes to you with an issue, to give them the answer, right? And well-meaning people, either your friends or your colleagues, like, oh, I'm really struggling with, oh, here's what I would try. Instead of doing that, the first what is your challenge, right? What do you want? And the second is what's happening now. So you want something, you have to figure out what's happening now. The third what is what's getting in your way. So what are the barriers to you getting what you want? The fourth is, what could you do? So it's the brainstorming, like no holes barred, like just no judgment. What are all the things? And then the fifth one is, what will you do? And so again, even the fifth, jumping to the fifth step of what will you do is very different from telling someone what to do. Because oftentimes, even as a boss, someone messes up and you literally think you know what's holding them back. And you say, you did this, do that instead. And so the coaching approach is really trying to get a sense of them figuring out what they want, them figuring out what's getting in their way, them brainstorming, and then picking something. So anyway, it's really fun to try, and it's simple.
It's great. So a little bit more questioning, more listening, and trying to evoke the answer out of the team.
Yeah, because sometimes, I had a guy once who was doing he was having a one-on-one with someone who was not really showing up the way he needed to. And so it would have been easy to say, there have been errors, you need to fix them, you've been late, blah, blah, blah. And instead he did this brought curiosity and kind of asked questions. And it turns out this guy was having a huge personal crisis that the boss was actually able to help him with. And his performance turned around like that. So oftentimes, you assume you know what's happening with people, and you don't. Sometimes you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's super hard, because if you've seen people over Zoom, if their cameras are off as well, you never know
what they're doing.
You never know to look at people. You could look like the most well put together person, but really that internal dialogue is not so great. So it's also leaders as well. A lot of people, I think, with leaders, were looking to them for the answers at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, and I always say, you can't compare your insides to other people's outsides, and that works well with social media. We always post the most perfect pictures and everything. And it's just not like that. We all struggle. I've had people who were shocked, they think they're the only person who thinks, oh, they're going to think I'm not that smart, or, oh, I sometimes feel insecure. And, normalizing that everyone has that internal dialogue, and it's a question of just how you manage it. And just knowing that you're not alone, and we're all human. And that's what I love about this permission to bring, again, that heart. In Lead with Love, we talk about the head, the heart, and the gut. And so many high achievers just spend all their time in their head, and they don't listen to their body, and they don't bring emotion into the workplace. But that's changing. So
what a beautiful place to end.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's great. It's been great talking to you, Lewis, as always.
Thank you so much. And we will do another one soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Okay, take care.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.